Let's get right into it, Drew. Has there ever been this much excitement for a 6-12 season? Maybe that's where we should start, but obviously everybody here to see Johnny Manziel. You have been here most days. What do you make of all of this, first of all?
Well, there's certainly been a lot of interest. There was a lot of interest leading up to this, but certainly you've had people coming up from ESPN, from SI. You've had a level of attention, I think, that I've never seen in my 10 years covering the Ticats. And every day the focus has been Johnny Manziel.
He has a checkered history. It's well documented. But what do you make of the way the CFL has tiptoed around his history?
Well, I think that they put him through a much more involved process than I've seen them put any player through in my history here. They asked him to go through some counseling, to talk to some people, professionals in the areas of domestic violence, to make sure that they felt he was on the right path, if that's the right way to put it. Look, I think that there are some people who are going to take issue with the fact that Johnny Manziel does have a history that involves domestic violence, and that there are some people for whom that's always going to be a deal breaker.
Right.
I think it goes to the issue of how you feel about rehabilitation, around second chances, around whether or not you feel that Manziel should have the opportunity to continue with his professional career and with his life. I will say this, he's been very contrite about the mistakes he's made in the past. He's addressed them, fairly directly, and he appears on the face of it to be genuine in his desire to improve himself as an individual. Is that enough? And does that mean future success? I think that's hard to say.
The debate between NFL, CFL, fans love to have this conversation, better football, and on this seems to spiral. Now you have a Heisman Trophy winner, the accolades, everything of Johnny Manziel here. What do we make of whether or not he can actually be good in this league?
Look, there's a long history of quarterbacks coming up here that have been successful in the United States who aren't necessarily successful in Canada. That includes another former Heisman Trophy winner who played for Montreal and didn't go very well for him at all. Even the guys that we think of now as CFL legends, guys like Doug Flutie, guys like Warren Moon, they struggled in their first year in the league. There is a learning curve. The game here is different than it is in the CFL. I think that Manziel has the physical tools to be successful here, but that it may be a work in progress. And I think one of the concerns I might have with what's going on is that the hype machine around Johnny is significant, and at some point there's going to be some expectation that we see him and that he play, and that's going to be something that the football part of it may take more time to develop. That doesn't mean he won't be successful. It just means he may not be successful instantly.
So from what you understand of everything Coach June Jones has said, he really likes Jeremiah Masoli. We know that. We saw how that played out at the end of last year, and basically him saying he's our starter. This is a scenario. How much pressure is on the coach when you have a guy like Johnny Manziel sitting around? Can he be the second stringer before people go, what are you doing?
Well, the backup quarterback is always the most popular guy on the team when the team isn't doing well. And I think it's worth noting that Hamilton's schedule early on is quite tough. They start the year in Calgary. They play Edmonton week 2. They play Saskatchewan home and away early in the season. They start against a run of Western teams. That was also a recipe for disaster last year when they started 0-8.
Right.
7 of those losses came against Western teams. I think if the Ticats struggle early, if Masoli doesn't play well necessarily, or the team doesn't, there may be this additional pressure to play Manziel, and that may not be the best thing for either him or the team, quite frankly.
I just think about this guy. I think about humble pie.
Absolutely.
I think about the story we tell ourselves about the success, the failure, and now this. In talking to him, Drew, do you think he understands what's at stake?
Absolutely. He said in his opening press conference that he understood that this was essentially his last chance, that if he were to wash out of the CFL, particularly for off-field reasons, right? I think if there's another incident off the field, or if his behavior regresses in some way, and that leads to his demise here, no NFL team is ever going to touch him again. His only way back to the NFL is to come up here, be successful on the field, to be a good teammate, to show that he's got the discipline to put the work in off the field. If he can do that here, then I think that's his pathway back to the NFL.
Final question. If we're sitting here in November, obviously not
it's gonna
in
be colder.
shorts, it will be in parkas, of course, but what will we be talking about?
That's a really good question. I think I'm not convinced that Johnny Manziel necessarily is going to be a storyline all year long, but Honestly, I don't know. I really...
Will he finish the season here? Could he go elsewhere?
No, I think he'll finish the season here, absolutely. I think Johnny will be here. But how big a story he'll be, so much of that depends on injury, opportunity, that kind of thing. But I really think that the best course of action for Johnny is if he has a successful season, that's maybe a couple of starts if Mazzoli is hurt. It's the opportunity to showcase a little bit of his talents, and then next year, that's really the big year for Johnny. That was the big year for Warren Moon, the big year for Doug Flutie, where they had a little bit of experience under their belt, and then were able to really expand on that and become successful in their second year. That's the pathway for Johnny, in my opinion.
Sounds like always next year country, perhaps
always
fitting
next year.
for Hamilton.
Absolutely, always next year. They've only been waiting since '99 for a title.
Thank you, Drew.
Anytime.